Greetings. If you're watching this, it can only mean that you've enrolled in an online history course at Collin College. My name is Dr. Ryan Pettengill. I'll be your instructor for this semester, and the point of this video is to familiarize you with the guidelines, expectations, and requirements for the class. So to that end, if you haven't done this already, you're going to want to grab yourself a copy of the syllabus. So put me on pause if you have to, log into Canvas, click on our class, and then what I'd like you to do is to click on Concourse Syllabus. There you can view and download a copy of the syllabus. Again, put me on pause if you need to. I'll be right back whenever you need me. What I'm going to be doing here is going through the syllabus, not necessarily line by line, but it's going to help to have that in front of you. And so the first thing I need you to understand about a class like this is that it's really going to be highly accelerated. We're going to take a traditional 15-week class and we're going to condense it down into just a few weeks. So if you have something for me, I need to know about it very, very quickly. This could be a question, it could be a concern, it could be something that you're not familiar with. Anyway, the sooner that you get me that message, the more options that I have. The fastest, most effective, best way to get a hold of me is there through email. If you email me at that address that's listed there on the syllabus, Monday through Thursday, there's a good chance that I'm going to get back to you on the same day, assuming that it's before 3 o'clock. If it's after 3 or if it's on the weekend, it'll be a little bit slower, but I do take a lot of pride in getting back to people very, very quickly, okay? My office is located on the Wiley campus. That would be Student Center 233. If we need to meet face-to-face, that's where that meeting will take place. If you'd like to call me, there is a phone in my office, and the phone number is listed there in the contact section of the syllabus. If I don't answer, go ahead and leave me a voicemail. I'll try my best to return that in a timely fashion as well. So those are the places that you can get a hold of me if you have a question or there's something that I need to know about. Now what I'd like to do is kind of transition into what this class is and what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks. This is History 1302, which is the second half of the U.S. History Survey. And we're going to begin our conversation in the late 19th century. We're going to take things all the way through the first few years of the 21st century. And all along the way, we're going to talk about all the usual suspects. We'll discuss presidents like Franklin Roosevelt. We'll talk about military leaders like General Douglas MacArthur. And of course, important activists that you've heard of before like Martin Luther King. But we're also going to bring other individuals into this conversation that don't always make their way into history textbooks. I'm talking about people like Diane Nash, a heroine of the civil rights movement that's going to help to organize the sit-ins, which we'll talk about later in the semester. We'll talk about World War II veterans like Felix Longoria, who's going to touch off a movement for equality and inclusion in American life. Again, you'll see what I'm talking about as our class continues to unfold. So as you can see, I take a very big tent approach to American history, which I hope that you'll appreciate, and I hope it makes the class a little bit more enjoyable for you. Now, as much as I would like to think that this timeline, this roadmap that we're going to draw you for American history, is going to stay with you forever and ever, I don't necessarily have that as my central goal for the class. Now, don't get me wrong, I do hope that this helps you to be a better American citizen and you feel almost empowered more after having taken and completed the class as opposed to before you took it. That's not really my primary objective. I have what I like to call academic goals that I'm hoping to develop and fine-tune over the course of this semester. I hope that what comes out of this class for you are skills, techniques, and approaches to learning that you can employ not only at the next level of your educational career, but on the professional job market as well. There will be things that we're going to do throughout the course of the semester. Writing is a good example. I'm hopeful that you're more confident, you're more comfortable as a writer after you complete this class as opposed to before the class began. I'm hopeful that you can understand how you construct a simple yet effective argumentative essay, and you're more at ease when it comes to approaching these things. I hope that you're a more critical thinker and that you're able to take sources and data from a variety of different origins and synthesize them in a way that will make sense to whoever's listening to this or whoever's reading it. And I promise you, it doesn't matter what career field you're going into, these are skills and techniques that employers want as we speak today. All right, so we need to talk a little bit about what are the required materials, what books that you need to have access to for this semester. The good news is all of these sources are available online, and the better news is you already have access to them in Canvas. What I'd like you to do is to click on the modules button of Canvas there on the left, and then scroll down to online text. Open that up, and then what you're going to see are three links. The first is going to be to this thing called the American Yop. That's going to be our document reader, and you're going to see why that's so important as we get to the course evaluation section of this video, because what you're going to use those primary sources, what you're going to use those for are things like quizzes and discussion forums. Now, in case you're wondering what a primary source is, this is a first-hand account of something. It's an eyewitness account. It's what historians use to write history, okay? So think about a government report or maybe an inauguration speech from a president, a newspaper article, a first-hand eyewitness account. And that's what I'm going to ask you to refer to basically write history, to play around with, and to think like a historian. So that's why that book is so important. The next book that you really, really need, and not only do you need it, you need to get going on it, is a book by a guy named Upton Sinclair. It's called The Jungle. Now, if you want a physical copy of it, that's what The Jungle looks like, and it's available in a lot of different forms and fashions, including the online version, which I've linked for you there in Canvas. If you want a physical copy of it, our bookstore sells it, Barnes & Noble sells it, Half Price Books sell it, and the good news here is because it's so widely read, it should be relatively cheap. You shouldn't be paying much more than about $15 for it, and that's probably on the high end. Like I said, it's available in a lot of different forms and fashions, and as long as yours is the full unabridged version, I don't care what the cover looks like or what historian wrote the introduction. None of that matters as long as it's the original edition. Okay. Now, the last book that you're going to need is going to be this book by Richard Wright. It's his memoirs that he entitled Black Boy. You have access to that on Canvas as well, but once again, this is a very widely read book, and any local bookstore should have it, and it should be for relatively cheap. So those are the books. Those are the only things that I need you to have access to. You already do have access to it. Humble advice, start reading The Jungle and just plow through it. I do think that you'll enjoy it. I think it's got something for everyone. It's going to be very interesting, but as you're about to find out, it's the basis for the first major assignment of the semester. Okay, so far so good? Like I said, this class is going to move fast, and the course calendar is going to be your best friend when it comes to staying on top of things. Now, go to the course calendar section of the syllabus, because what that's going to do is it's not only going to point out what you need to read and when you need to have that completed by, but what you have in terms of written assignments and when those are due. So if you look at week 1, for example, you're going to see that we've got a couple discussion forums, a few discussion forums that I need you to keep your eye on, as well as a few quizzes. You see what I'm talking about, all right? I highly recommend checking in on the course calendar at least once per week, at least, probably more once per day in a class like this, but at the very least once per week to stay on top of things. Now, with that, I want to take you through line by line in terms of what required assignments that you're going to have in this course and what you can expect as you go through them. The best, easiest, fastest way to rack up a bunch of points in this class, classes like this, would be through your discussion forums. Now, what these discussion forums are basically short written assignments. I don't really need you to go through, like a 6-7 page analysis of any one of these things. But if you click on the assignment button of Canvas, you're going to see discussion forums 1 through 5. And what these things are going to do is going to either link you to the American Yop or tell you to refer to a specific chapter of the American Yop and choose a few documents to answer that central question. You're going to have at least one of these discussion forums that's going to be due every week. Sometimes there's going to be more than one, but in any case, This is your participation element of the class, okay? Now, while I highly encourage you to engage with your classmates, it's designed to be sort of like an online conversation with your classmates. You don't have to go ahead and have that online conversation. I would encourage you to do so. It will make the course more enjoyable, and it'll also help me justify a higher grade if you happen to be sort of on the border between one grade and a higher grade. Okay, so anyway, those are the discussion forums. Each discussion forum is worth 3 points for a grand total of 15 points. The next thing that you can do to rack up a bunch of points would be the quizzes. Now, you're going to see 6 quizzes over the course of the semester. Each of them are going to be worth 3 points. You have 6, but you're only responsible for 5, which means that if you do all 6 and you do them all well, you can earn up to 3 points of extra credit. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that you can get to where you want to go for this semester. Each quiz is worth 3 points, as I said before, and each quiz is going to be linked to a primary document. It's going to ask you to read that document and use that document to help you answer the central question that's listed in the quiz. The quizzes essentially are open book. They're open note if you want to look at it that way. They're not timed. I'm not trying to trick you here. What I'm trying to do is to get you to think critically about whatever material is that I'm linking there to the class. I'm hopeful, and I highly encourage all of you to take full advantage of this element of the class, because I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The lifting is going to become increasingly more difficult, okay? You're going to see 2 papers throughout the course of the semester. Each of these papers are going to be 2 to 3 pages in length. You will double space it, normal 1-inch margins, 12-point font for everything. Each of these papers are going to be worth 10 percentage points. Both of the papers are going to ask you to refer to those books, like The Jungle that I was referring to. That's why The Jungle is so important. That's why Richard Wright is so important. That's why you need to have access to them and begin reading them as soon as possible. Without any kind of understanding of what's going on, for example, in The Jungle, it's going to be really difficult to complete paper 1. Now, if you want a little bit of help on these assignments, I've linked some YouTube videos there in another module. It's entitled Paper Assignments. That will help you break down important passages within both of those readings and also connect it to important themes, issues, concepts, individuals, events, etc. that are happening in our class. So papers 1 and 2 are a major portion of the class, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult than anything that we've talked about thus far. Aside from the papers, you're going to see 1 midterm exam, you're going to see 1 final exam. Both the midterm exam as well as the final exam consist of a combination of multiple choice questions, short written response questions, and 1 long essay question. Again, there's some help online in Canvas in the exams module of Canvas, so you can refer there if you're wondering what I'm going to ask you or what the formatting of the exam is going to be. Now, the last thing that I want to mention before we wrap up here is the day-to-day operation of this class. A big part of studying history is to understand the context, the specific circumstances that were involved in, for example, the lead-up of the Great Depression. There's few, if anything, that we can point to that's completely random or accidental in history, American or otherwise. So you can access these video lectures by going into Canvas and once again clicking on the Modules button. Click on the Modules button and open up the video lecture module. If you open that up, you're going to see not only every video lecture that's available in the class, you'll also see a corresponding PowerPoint as well as a term bank that will point out important terms that you need to have an understanding for upon completing that video lecture. Now, the course calendar of the syllabus will point out what video lectures you need to complete and when you need to have them done by. So again, the course calendar is really, really important for a class like this. It's also noteworthy that these video lectures are not only the building blocks of my exams, so you can't really do well on the exams unless you have some familiarity with what's going on there in the lectures. They're also got really important information when it comes to things like the papers and even the quizzes from time to time. So please stay on top of that. That's really all I have for you in the moment. I hope that this video lecture has clarified what I expect and what you need to do well in this class. I wish you the best of luck in this class. I'm rooting hard for you. I always root hard for my students. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I've told you how to get a hold of me. And with that, I hope everyone is ready to hit the ground running for not only a quick semester, but a productive one as well. Good luck, everybody.